My name is Jade Holloway. I'm 31 years old, and 3 years ago my family treated me like I was already dead to them. I remember the exact night it became real. Not a slow fade. One clean cut. We were all in my parents' house in Columbus, Ohio, the split level on Birchwood Drive where I grew up. The one with the broken porch light my dad said he'd fix for 6 years and never did. It was November. My mom had made pot roast. My brother Cody was going on about his clothing brand, how he'd just hit 5,000 followers on Instagram, how a micro-influencer in Cincinnati had worn his hoodie. My dad was nodding like Cody had cured a disease. I waited for a break in the conversation. There wasn't one, so I just said it. I got accepted into the culinary management program at Johnson & Wales, full merit scholarship. I start in January, silence. My dad reached for the salt. My mom said, "Cody, didn't you say you needed help redesigning the website?" That was it. No congratulations. No, what's that? Nothing. I sat there with my fork halfway to my mouth and realized I had become furniture. Present but invisible. Something they moved around without thinking. After dinner, my Aunt Carol pulled me aside on the back porch. She's my dad's younger sister, the one who moved to Charleston after her divorce and never looked back. She handed me her glass of wine even though I hadn't asked for it. "You're not going to get what you need from this house," she said. "Stop waiting for it." I drove home that night and packed 2 bags, sublet in my apartment to a coworker, texted my manager I wouldn't be back after the holidays, and in January I flew to Providence, Rhode Island with a full scholarship and $400 in my bank account. Nobody called to say goodbye. My brother posted a new hoodie drop the morning I left. If you've ever sat in an airport gate at 6 in the morning feeling completely alone while your family doesn't notice you're gone, hit subscribe. Because 18 months later, my aunt posted a photo of my restaurant in Charleston, and my dad reached out for the first time since I left. And what he asked for still makes my jaw tighten when I think about it. Johnson & Wales was harder than I expected and exactly what I needed. The culinary management program wasn't just cooking. It was operations, cost control, vendor negotiation, staffing. I pulled double shifts in the school kitchen and worked weekends at a small Italian place on Federal Hill called Rosario's just to stay sharp and stay funded. My first paycheck there was $240. I cried in my car. Not from sadness. From relief, mostly. I found a room in a shared house near campus with 3 other students, thin walls, 1 bathroom, a landlord named Mr. Petrov who showed up unannounced. I put a whiteboard above my desk that said Boat Fund, crossed it out, and wrote Restaurant Fund. My Aunt Carol texted every Sunday. 1 line, always the same, "Still rooting for you." Sometimes I reply with 3 words, sometimes just a thumbs up. She never asked about Columbus. Never mentioned my parents or Cody. She had a rule, forward only, and she enforced it without announcing it. I checked my family's social media twice the first month, then once, then I stopped. My mom was commenting heart emojis on every Cody post. My dad shared a photo of himself at Cody's pop-up event in Cleveland. Arms wide, huge grin. Proud dad energy in full display. I had sent my parents my new Providence address 3 weeks earlier. No response. I deleted both apps. The program moved fast. By spring semester, I was top of my cohort in food cost analysis. My advisor, a former restaurant GM named Dr. Osady. Wait, I can't use that name. My advisor was a former restaurant GM. A sharp woman who'd run operations for a hotel group in Atlanta before transitioning to education. She pulled me into her office one afternoon and told me I thought differently than most students. "You're not just learning recipes," she said. "You're thinking about systems. That matters more." I graduated 18 months later, summa cum laude. The ceremony was on a Thursday afternoon in May. My Aunt Carol drove up from Charleston. She sat in the 3rd row in a yellow blazer and cried when they called my name. She was the only person there for me. I took a photo with her outside the building and she framed it and hung it in her hallway before I'd even gotten back to my apartment. I know, because she sent me a photo of it that same night. After graduation, I stayed in Providence another 2 months working as a floor manager at a mid-sized brasserie downtown. Learned how a real service runs. How a GM talks to a kitchen. How you hold a team together on a Saturday night when the dishwasher calls out, and a fish delivery is late. Then Carol called. "There's a space in Charleston," she said. "Owner's retiring. Bones are good. Location is right. You should come look." I drove down in July with everything I owned in a Honda Civic with a cracked side mirror. The space was on King Street, which, if you don't know Charleston, is where you want to be. Corner unit, 1,200 square feet, original brick walls, a bar along one side that just needed refinishing. The retiring owner was asking $200,000 for the business assets and a lease assumption. I had $42,000 saved. I spent 3 weeks building a business plan, then walked into 4 different banks. 3 passed. The 4th, a community development lender that focused on small food businesses, offered me an SBA loan to cover the gap. I signed the lease on September 3rd. I named it Groundwork. The next 4 months were the hardest of my life, not emotionally, but physically. I was there 12 hours a day minimum, built the menu myself, hired a line cook named Joel, no, different name, hired a line cook I'd met through a culinary Facebook group, a dishwasher who turned out to be the most reliable person on my staff, a front-of-house manager who'd spent 8 years at a tourist trap nearby and was desperate for something real. Carol showed up on opening weekend with 6 of her friends. She sat at the bar, ordered everything, tipped $90 on a $60 tab, and told everyone within earshot that her niece built this place from nothing. The first 3 months were rocky. There were weeks where I paid my staff before I paid myself, weeks where I ate family meal and counted what was left. But the reviews started coming in on Yelp and Google, and then a food writer from the Charleston City paper came in on a Tuesday night and wrote a paragraph about the short rib and the whipped ricotta toast that got shared 400 times. Things shifted. By spring, I was fully staffed, turning tables twice on weekends, pulling consistent numbers. I hired a part-time bookkeeper. I started taking a real salary. I opened a savings account and labeled it Expansion Fund. My Aunt Carol visited every few weeks. She'd eat at the bar, give me honest feedback, too much salt on that one, the service felt rushed tonight, and leave before close so I could focus. She never brought up Columbus. Neither did I. I talked to no one from that house for 2 years. No calls, no texts, no one from that house for 2 years. No calls, no texts, no emails. My birthday passed both years without a word from any of them. I celebrated the first one by staying late at the restaurant, the second by taking my staff to a late dinner after service. At some point, it stopped feeling like silence from them and just started feeling like peace. Carol came in one Thursday afternoon in October, earlier than usual. She sat at the end of the bar while I was going over invoices on my laptop. "I want to show you something," she said, pulling out her phone. "Before you say anything." She'd posted a photo. Me in the dining room at Groundwork, standing near the window, the exposed brick behind me, the pendant lights warm. She'd written, "My niece built this restaurant from scratch. King Street, Charleston. Go give her your business." I grabbed her phone. "Carol." "Already posted," she said. She wasn't sorry. She was grinning. "My dad's sister follows you." "I know." I set the phone down. The likes were already rolling in from her circle. Friends from her book club, neighbors, former co-workers. Nice. Beautiful. So proud of her. I paced back to the kitchen, checked nothing that needed checking, came back out. "The whole family sees what you post," I said. She picked up her water glass. "Exactly." We sat across from each other. She looked at me with the kind of steadiness that takes years to develop. "You've built something real," she said. "They're going to hear about it. When they do, you need to already know what you're going to say." I crossed my arms. "Nothing." "Good," she said. "Nothing is the right answer." She left before the dinner rush. I went through service on autopilot, muscle memory carrying me through the tickets. At close, I wiped down the bar myself like I always did, turned off the lights, locked the door. My phone had 47 notifications. Most were from people Carol knew, but 3 were from a number I recognized even though I hadn't seen it in 2 years. My dad. I sat in my car in the parking lot behind the restaurant and stared at the screen. 3 texts. Not 1. 3, which told me he'd thought about it. Put the phone down, picked it back up twice more. First text, "Jade. This is Dad. Saw the restaurant on Facebook. Looks like things are going well." Second, send 40 minutes later, "We'd love to catch up. A lot has happened. Cody's business hit a rough patch." Third, sent an hour after that, "Call when you get a chance. We're family." I forwarded all 3 to Carol. She replied in under a minute. "Don't respond yet. Let me know if they escalate." I didn't sleep great that night. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail from my mom. Her voice was soft, careful, the tone she used when she wanted something and knew she was starting from behind. "Honey, we saw your aunt's post. We're so proud of you. It's been too long. We miss you." A pause. "Cody would love to see you. He's going through a hard time." There it was. I didn't call back. By Friday, my brother had messaged me directly through Instagram. We hadn't followed each other in over a year, but he found my restaurant's account and slid into the DMs. "Hey sis, looks incredible. Heard from mom you might be open to reconnecting. I've got a situation. Could use some family support. Would love to grab a call." Family support. As in money. I showed my bookkeeper the messages during our afternoon check-in. She looked at them, looked at me, and said, "You don't owe him anything." She was right. I already knew. But sometimes you need to hear it from someone else just to feel solid. Sunday morning, Carol's text arrived as always, "Still rooting for you." I replied with, "They reached out." She called immediately. "All three of them?" she asked. "Dad, Mom, and Cody." She was quiet for 2 seconds. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing yet." "Good," she said. Nothing is still the right answer. They showed up on a Wednesday. I found out because my front-of-house manager texted me at 11 in the morning, "Hey, 2 people just walked in and asked for you. Said they're your parents." I was at the farmer's market 2 blocks away picking up herbs. I walked back. They were sitting at a table by the window. My dad in a fleece vest, my mom with her purse on the table like she was waiting for a diner booth. My dad stood up when he saw me come through the door. He was smiling like no time had passed. Like I'd just gone to summer camp for a couple of years and now I was back. "Jade," he said, "look at this place." I didn't hug him. I stood at the edge of the table with my market bag in my hand. "You didn't say you were coming," I said. "We wanted to surprise you." My mom reached for my hand. I stepped back just slightly, enough to make the point without a scene. "Cody's not with you?" "He's parking," my dad said. "Should be in any minute." Cody came in 2 minutes later, the same easy walk he'd had since high school, the one that said everything was fine even when nothing was. He did a slow look around the dining room. "Man, this is legit, Jade." I stood in the middle of my own restaurant and looked at the 3 of them. "Sit down," I said. "Tell me why you're here." My dad did the talking. He laid it out like a business presentation, which was almost funny given the circumstances. Cody's clothing brand had overextended, bought too much inventory heading into the holiday season. The warehouse lease came due. 2 of his main wholesale accounts pulled out. He was $48,000 in the hole. The bank wouldn't touch him. My parents had already taken out a personal loan against their house to help cover the first wave, and it hadn't been enough. "We thought," my dad said, "given how well things are going here, you might be in a position to help out." My mom added, "We'd pay you back. This is a loan." Cody was looking at his hands. I kept my voice even. "You want me to lend Cody $48,000. We're asking you to consider it," my dad said. "Family takes care of family." I almost laughed. Not a mean laugh, more like the kind that escapes when something is so on the nose you can't quite process it. "I haven't heard from any of you in 3 years, I said. Not a text on my birthday. Not a call when I opened this restaurant. Not a word when I graduated." My mom's eyes got soft. "We didn't know how to reach out after things got uncomfortable," I said. "After I left to build something and you didn't notice I was gone?" "We noticed," my dad said. "Dad, you reached for the salt." He blinked. "The night I told you I got a full scholarship to culinary school, you reached for the salt and Mom asked Cody about his website. That was 3 years ago. That was the last time I was in that house." Silence. My mom started to cry. Not dramatic crying, the quiet kind, which was almost harder to sit with. "We made mistakes," she said. "You did," I said. "I'm not here to relitigate them, but I need you to hear what I'm about to say clearly." I looked at all 3 of them. Year 1, my first year in Providence. My birthday. I was 28 years old, sharing a bathroom with 3 strangers, eating staff meal for dinner to save money. You posted a photo from Cody's pop-up event. Nobody called. My dad opened his mouth. "I'm not finished." Year 2, I graduated summa cum laude from one of the best culinary programs in the country. Carol drove 4 hours to be there. I sent you the date 3 times. You didn't come. Cody shifted in his chair. Year 3, I opened Groundwork. I signed a lease, secured an SBA loan, built a staff from scratch, and opened a restaurant on King Street in Charleston. The Charleston City paper reviewed it in the first month. I didn't tell you because you had made it clear, consistently and without ambiguity, that my life was not a priority in your home. I leaned forward slightly. And now Cody's business is failing, and you flew here to ask me for $48,000. And you called it family. The table was very quiet. My dad tried, Jade, we love you. We were proud. You didn't show it. That's not the same thing. My mom, he's your brother. He is. And I wish him well, genuinely. But I'm not a bank you can access after 3 years of silence because the math got inconvenient. Cody looked up. I never said anything bad about you. No, I said. You just let it happen. I stood up. I'm going to ask you to leave now. Not because I'm angry. I actually feel a lot calmer than I expected. But because I have a lunch service to run and this conversation is over. My dad stood too. Jade, think about what you're doing. I have been thinking about it, I said, for 3 years. My front-of-house manager appeared at just the right moment near the host stand, which I appreciated. My parents gathered their things. My mom paused at the door. We're staying in Charleston through Friday, she said, in case you change your mind. Safe travels home, I said. The door closed. My line cook looked at me from across the pass. I gave him a thumbs up. He nodded and went back to his mise en place. Carol called that afternoon. She'd heard from my dad already. He texted her asking her to talk to me. What did you tell him? I asked. That it's your decision and I wasn't going to be a middleman. She paused. You okay? Yeah, I said. Actually, yeah. Proud of you, she said. We stayed on the phone for a while after that without talking about any of it. She told me about a garden she was planting. I told her the short rib was back on the menu for fall. Regular conversation, the good kind. My parents texted twice more before they flew home. I read both, archived them, and didn't reply. My brother sent a final message on Thursday night. I get it. I do. I just hope we can find a way back at some point. I read it, closed the app, and went back to reviewing the weekend order sheet. 3 months later, Carol mentioned offhand that Cody had filed for bankruptcy. Chapter 7. His inventory was liquidated. The brand was done. My parents had already taken the loss on their personal loan and were in the middle of refinancing the house. I said I was sorry to hear it. I meant it. Not everything that ends badly deserves celebration. But I didn't regret my answer. Some nights I walk through the dining room after close, after the staff is gone, after the lights are down, except the ones above the bar. I look at the brick walls and the menu board and the corner table that always gets reserved first. I built this. Not because my family believed in me. They didn't. And that's a fact. I've made peace with the way you make peace with way. You make peace with weather. You don't argue with it. You dress appropriately and keep moving. Carol's photo is still up on her Instagram. It has a few hundred likes now. My restaurant's account grew off it. We got 3 new regular tables from her followers, which in a small city like Charleston matters more than you'd think. The thing about being written off is that it only works if you accept the story. I didn't. I took the scholarship and the $400 and the Honda Civic with the cracked mirror and I drove towards something. I didn't do it to prove them wrong. I did it because the alternative was sitting at that table forever, waiting for someone to pass me the salt. Carol still texts every Sunday. The line is always the same, still rooting for you. I always write back now. Full sentences. Because I have something worth reporting. I've thought a lot about the night my dad reached for the salt. Not because it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. It wasn't, not even close, but it was the moment I understood something that took me years to fully articulate. The people who should see you most clearly are sometimes the ones most committed to looking away. And the longer you wait for them to turn around, the more of your own life you spend standing in the wrong direction. What happened to me wasn't random. I want to be clear about that. The 3 years of silence, the empty birthdays, the graduation ceremony where my Aunt Carol sat in the 3rd row in a yellow blazer and cried while my parents were nowhere. Those things happened because of choices. Their choices, repeated consistently, over time. And the restaurant on King Street, The SBA loan I earned, the staff I hired and kept and trained. Those happened because of choices too. Mine. That's the part nobody tells you when you're sitting at a dinner table feeling invisible. Your circumstances are not your verdict. The silence from Columbus was real. The hurt was real. But it wasn't a ceiling. It was just a starting point I happened to get assigned, and starting points don't determine where you land. What you decide to do with the first $400 in your account and a cracked side mirror on a Honda Civic, that's what determines it. I'm not saying any of this was easy. Easy is the wrong word entirely. There were weeks in Providence where I paid for groceries by rounding down to what I actually had. There were nights in that first year at Groundwork where I ran the numbers 3 times hoping the math would change. It didn't. You just keep going. That's not inspiration. That's just the actual mechanics of building something. You show up, you learn what broke, you fix it, you show up again. The harder thing was the ethical part. When my dad sat across from me at my own table and said, "Family takes care of family," some part of me wanted to believe he meant it. Some old, younger part of me that still lived on Birchwood Drive. But I've learned that wisdom isn't just knowing what's right in the abstract. It's being honest about what's actually in front of you. What was in front of me was 3 people who had been consistent for 3 full years, and 1 crisis that temporarily changed what they needed from me. That's not reconciliation. That's leverage dressed up as love. I don't carry anger about any of it. Anger requires ongoing investment, and I've got a restaurant to run. What I carry instead is clarity. About what I can control and what I can't. About who shows up when you have nothing to offer. Carol. Every Sunday, same line, no agenda. And who shows up when the math changes in their favor. That distinction is worth more than $48,000. It's worth more than any number I could put on a ledger. Carol still texts every Sunday. I always write back now. Because when someone stays in your corner through the whole climb, the least you can do is let them know you made it.